About 24.
24 years
25 in a
old.
couple
So
weeks.
we're looking at a Gen Z. You're looking at a generation that was acculturated and socialized behind a screen. We have a generation of what we call lost boys right now who don't have a father figure. They don't have any guidance, whether it's masculinity or much else for that matter. And so, of course, if I can say, hey, look, I'm an older gentleman and I can help level you up, and common sense is so rare right now, we can commodify it, then I'm going to go and do my best to help men. I'm not in the business of helping men become better men. I'm in the business of helping men have the tools and the equipment so that they can build their own lives.
You say the greatest problem with men is men are purposeless and sedated by pornography, online video games, alcohol, or marijuana.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you mean sedated by?
They're escapisms is what they are. If your crummy life is, if your escapisms are better than your crummy life, then you're going to dwell more in those escapisms. So what do men do today? They're addicted to pornography. Anyone in this room on their phone can go get hardcore pornography anytime they want to. There's a reason why it's free. If you go and you look at marijuana being legalized, if you look at the opioid epidemic right now, if you look at the way we sedate men today, that is the number one, I think anyways, is the number one problem that we're looking at for really the latter half of the millennial generation and all of Generation Z right now.
Yeah, and you talk about that the suicide rate for men is 3.5 to 5 times,
depending on whose numbers you're looking at and what the demographics are.
Yeah, than it is for women. And you interpret that as meaning what?
I interpret that as meaning that those are deaths of despair. We have a term for that right now. Men get zeroed out. They build up lives, they build up personalities, they build up life equity, let's just say. They lose a job, they lose their wives, they lose out on something, and no one is there to tell them how to bounce back from that rejection, how to bounce back from that defeat, how to come back from being zeroed out. So they're faced with two really very real decisions. One is rebuild yourself or delete yourself. And unfortunately, most men are deleting themselves right now.
Most men are deleting themselves.
Well, the prime demographic for suicide for men right now is 45 to 65 years old. It's what they call deaths of despair. We constantly harp on the fact that men don't have friends, they don't have close friends, they don't have the same networks that women do. And then we put the blame for their mental health back on them by saying it's toxic masculinity, and if you guys were just more like women, then you would reach out for therapy of some sorts. If women were killing themselves at 4 times the rate that men are, you would have a dedicated month and the NFL would change their uniforms to pink or something else so that we would have some sort of female suicide prevention month. But we don't see that right now because we blame it on toxic masculinity.
What do you mean when you say media celebrates masculinity as equaling acting feminine?
Well, that's the only time that the mainstream media will ever celebrate masculinity is when you see The Rock in a tutu. Whenever you see men behaving conventionally feminine, that's when the media decides to celebrate it. But yet when a guy is acting in a conventionally masculine way, we do not celebrate that, and we find some way to demonize that.
And what's conventionally masculine?
Men are, by and large, in a general sense, 99.9% larger, more muscular, more physically adept than women are. So we can look at what are the traits that are associated with that. Determinism, determination.
How are men more determined than women?
Mentally speaking, if you look at the differences, the genetic differences between men and women, men tend to be more interested in things, women tend to be more interested in people. Women tend to be in the social fields, men tend to be in the more mechanical fields. So if there's a conventional masculinity, it's related to the way that our brains are structured. It doesn't have anything to do with social constructionism.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.